And let's see here. Let me see. I guess I gotta. Oh. Oops! I forgot to hit go live. My bad. I haven't been live this whole time. Oh goodness. Whoops. I could have sworn I hit go live, folks. I'm sorry. I've been talking for about 15 minutes here. Crap. It didn't go. Okay. Well, good thing I saw that. It kind of flashed at me saying go live, and I was thinking, oh boy, I thought I was already live. Well, here we go. So I'm really sorry about that. I've been chatting at you since about 10:30, so I guess it's only 12 minutes, but all right. Well, I guess I will go back and talk about what I was just talking about. I'm really sorry about that. Darn YouTube. All right. So let's see here. On Bitcoin, what I'm looking at are essentially 4 items here. And the big question that I'm asking myself is, at least for these supports, is Bitcoin continuing to use it as support? And I'm just going to skip my intro and stuff for today because I just wasted 12 minutes being, I guess, silly. I thought I clicked the right button, but I didn't. All right, these are the 4 things that I'm looking at. Monthly 10, weekly 10, monthly candle open, labeled, master origin line is labeled. I'm essentially asking myself, are these being used as support? And on the lower time frames, you can really zoom in here and look to see. I'm on the 5-minute chart. Each 5-minute oscillation, and oscillation means when the Stokes go up and down. So you can't see the Stokes right now. Let me show you what I mean. The Stokes going up and down. Here, these Stokes. All the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down. I'm essentially asking myself, on the oscillations down, is price on these small term time frames, is price using this as support or not? And right now, it's technically not using this next area of support. Well, maybe my line's just a little too high, but it doesn't look like it's using it truly as support. When it comes below, it's coming a little bit below it. Oscillation up, oscillation down, it didn't really stick the landing. And this oscillation down, it's not sticking the landing either. That's showing me potential signs of weakness, and it is hinting at the idea. Where's my weekly 10? It's hinting at the idea that the next support down might need to be retested again, because it's the oscillations down on the 5-minute candles are not using this line as true support quite yet. Could it? It could. Price could, come up again, and on the next oscillation down, it sticks its landing, uses it as support. That's completely possible. But as of now, this has given some signs that this might want to wick down and hit the weekly 10 one more time. Let me throw back on the monthly 10 EMA. And these are the 4 items that I'm really staring at. Now, a lot of times during altcoin season, when things were flying up, I really stressed to my viewership that get off the lower time frames. Get off the lower time frames. So it's similar to the lower time frames are a tool. So let's just take a very basic tool, a hammer. For obvious reasons, there are right ways to use a hammer, to hammer in nails, to pry things open, during demolition or just getting out old nails or whatever during interior or exterior construction. Then there are wrong ways if you need to get a dent out of your car, probably not the right tool. So during altcoin season, the lower time frames are like trying to get a dent out of a car using a hammer. Not the right tool to use. It is a good tool, but during altcoin season, like you're dealing with a car. You're not dealing with nails or anything. And then there are some areas of in between where if you can use it as a tool, but it's not quite the right tool, but it works. For example, if you try to open a can or something, right? A can of some liquid inside, like tomato sauce or tomato juice or something. You can use the prying side, the sharper side of the hammer to open it up. Not the right tool, but it works, right? So there are some things of in between, and and during altcoin season, using lower time frames isn't, at least on altcoins, is not really the right thing to use. But right now, what it does is the reason why it's a really good tool to use for these areas of support is because it does give you a good hint on how things are going to translate into the larger time frame, such as the day. So, for example, let me take off this. Let me take that off. So this day here, if if on those lower time frames, that origin line, the master origin line, can be used as true support, that greatly increases the chances that this day will stay green. But as of now, it really looks like this day, I mean, as of now, it looks like it has a strong chance of at least flickering red to retest the 10, and then hopefully it bounces from there, you know, assuming that you're not bearish and trying to be in shorts. But and that could be an incorrect assumption. But regardless, that's how you would utilize that tool, and to try to give you an edge on what's getting ready to happen on the larger time frames. Because a lot of the trading volume on Bitcoin, I mean, the vast majority of it is not retail people. It's not even individual whales or anything. It's high frequency type of trading, small time frames, and this stuff really does matter. And it does translate into the larger time frames, at least during choppy markets. You know, during parabolic moves or whatever, it's probably not the best tool to be using, like I said earlier. But right now, I mean, this origin line is not truly being used as support. So until that changes, until you get an oscillation up and then the next oscillation down, truly used as support, there is a stronger chance of, right now, it does look like a decent chance of the weekly 10 being tested one more time. And so these are the main things I'm looking at on Bitcoin. Again, these 4 items here. Right there, I have them all labeled. If you want to take a screenshot or, you know, go back and pause or whatever, that's what I'm looking at. And these are the things I'm using on my chart. I think they're giving me a pretty darn good idea of what will happen at least in the next few hours, right? Or even throughout the day. I'm coupling my Bitcoin levels with, I mean, just really a couple things on, so this ticker right here. Hopefully y'all can see that ticker. This might be a ticker you save on your watch list, right? Because Bitcoin is moving with this. I mean, you can't really deny it. I could prove it to you if you wanted to, but it's not a 100% perfect correlation. There are some moments where Bitcoin, or this might have a down move and Bitcoin has up move for, you know, several 5-minute candles. But in general, if this tanks down, Bitcoin takes down on the same exact hour. Actually, I'll just show you. So, Lael Brainard of the Fed started speaking at 10:05 a.m. Okay? 10:05. Eastern U.S. time. That is the 10-hour, that's 10 a.m. Right there. That's when she started speaking. And you could see it maybe down below, like down on my chart down here, you could see it hovering down there. So if I hover over this candle, you can see it says 10 a.m., right? At least at New York time. Go to Bitcoin. Same candle. See that? Same one. Okay, so hopefully, I mean, and you can do this over and over throughout. I mean, really, even since 2020, this is it's been pretty dang correlated since 2020. So the main thing that I'm looking at, in addition to obviously Bitcoin raw price, those levels, is I'm using this as a primary indicator for Bitcoin. So, for example, let me show you an example of how I'm using this with this ticker. And this is the futures of the NASDAQ index. Futures of the NASDAQ index. I'm looking at this horizontal specifically. Let me even go to the 5-minute chart. With one exception over here, it's been used as pretty clear support. If, for example, this starts tanking below, significantly below, and comes up, and let me actually draw this out. This is one way to use this as a tool. If it goes below, comes up, use it as resistance, and then even has like 1 or 2 red 5-minute candles after specifically being used as resistance. If something like that's happening on this chart at this level labeled here, and at the same time, for example, Bitcoin, it seems to still be going in this direction, that gives me a heads up that, wait, this is probably getting ready to come down. It's very likely going to, even though it hasn't been affected by the price of that yet, it's very likely soon getting ready to translate and go bam straight down to the next support. Even though Bitcoin itself looks like it's okay right now, but that's how I'm utilizing it as a tool, because sometimes there is a 5 to 10 minute delay. It just gives you, or sometimes even an hour delay. But it's very similar. How I mentioned on my just general YouTube video yesterday that I stress, and most of you, it's easier to realize this, but Bitcoin is the primary indicator for almost every altcoin out there. Maybe with the exception of Luna, sometimes Atom, maybe sometimes Phantom. But it's the primary indicator, meaning if your altcoin's going up and Bitcoin takes a 5% move down, your altcoin is very likely going to go down. Even though it looked like for example, BPro they're probably BPro. BPro was holding up very nicely, and Bitcoin pulled it down. It was more probable, specific to the BPro chart, that it was going to get continuation to the upside. It was simply statistically more probable, but a less probable scenario played out, right, for both Bitcoin and BPro. So therefore, Bitcoin was obviously the primary indicator for BPro price, because BPro was statistically extremely likely to keep at least hold steady and then get continuation. And utilizing that ticker from traditional markets, it's essentially the same concept, but that traditional market ticker is the primary indicator for Bitcoin, at least for now. That could hopefully will change in the next couple of years, and that's one way to use it. Now, a lot of times when they're in concert and they both go down together on 1 hour candles and 5 hour candles, okay, it's obvious. It's an obvious tool. Okay, they're both going down. But sometimes Bitcoin and Ethereum look like they want to get a rally here, a small little pump. At the same time, a key level's being broken on that other ticker, and that gives you the heads up. Whatever Bitcoin and Ethereum think they're doing, it's not going to last. It's getting ready to come down, because just like Bitcoin ruined the party on a lot of altcoins, whether it's BPro or even Luna. Luna dropped 10, 11%. Roughly hit my target of 120, and then 2 days later tanked down 10% in a day. Bitcoin even ruined the party on that. So this ticker would can ruin the party on Bitcoin. So that's one way I'm utilizing this ticker as another tool here. All right, and you can. These are the key items that I'm using for this. So the first step would be continue using this as support, and then get above the weekly 10, use that as support, come up to the monthly 10, not get rejected. Hopefully, use it as support, and then carry on onward and upward. But my main question in my mind is this continuing to be used as support on the 5-minute swings up and down? And then the next step would be obviously the weekly 10. And since nothing has changed since my YouTube video yesterday, I'll probably open this up to questions a little sooner, because not all altcoins are moving exactly with Bitcoin quite yet. Near protocol, Near protocol is coming down, but they're not all moving quite the same. So there might be more exciting things to be looking at. For example, even even something like Pirate Chain is holding up extremely well. It's not being affected by this. Just there are some out there. So the questions throughout this live stream might open up a little bit more excitement, because Bitcoin hasn't done anything really new quite yet, and neither have traditional markets. All right, let me see what SPX is doing real quick. Yeah, nothing new. Okay, and lower target review is I'm using my tilted range. This orange area, so top and bottom, is the 1/4 zone. The weekly 89. Is coming in at the bottom, and so is this trend line, wick low to wick low, and they're all going to cross at the same exact point. All three of these are going to be right there. So if Bitcoin does break that support, it really looks like Bitcoin could come right down to 37.8. It could bounce on the top closer to 40,100, 40,000, something to that effect, but I think it's a little less likely. So these are my downside targets if particularly the weekly 10 is broken on Bitcoin, and or that important horizontal that I showed you on the traditional market ticker. If that's broken, this would be my next most likely target with a chance. So 37.8 would be my most likely target with a chance of a bounce around 40,000 and change, 40,100 to 40,000 in that $100 box at the top of this quarter zone. And that's so let me open this up. Let me see what type of questions you have. All right, so Dylan says, yesterday while everyone was focused on the essentially Fed Reserve meeting and price dropping on traditional markets and the crypto market, the Senate voted on a bill that would make employers automatically enroll employees who work more than 10 hours per week to automatically be enrolled in a 401k plan. That's good. Yeah, so they lowered the threshold. Instead of needing 40 hours a week, lowered it to 10. Yeah, I mean, that would help traditional markets over the long run. The bill wouldn't, obviously go into effect quite yet. Plus the power of those 10 hours a week, putting buy pressure on the traditional markets, that would take an effect. That's good news though. I don't think it's as strong immediate of news as people's reaction to the Fed posturing itself to take a more aggressive stance on inflation, but that is good. And I did not. Yeah, you're right. That got kind of washed under the water with everybody looking at Brainerd spooking everybody. I did not know that. All right, idea token is back on the floor. It might be worth picking some up. All right, so let's. So that's what Jobin, or Hobin. Not for sure where you're from, how to say your first name, but so somebody says idea. Yeah, it's back down to its horizontal support down here. It was not able to hold, and this was affected by the Bitcoin bounce. It's a pretty strong horizontal. It spent a lot of time in at 10, 11 cents, but yeah. It is. It did succumb to Bitcoin pressure pretty immediately. This is one of the ones that did react rather immediately. All right, I'm going to skip. So OTA, I skipped your question 2 or 3 times on Tuesday. I will jump straight to yours right now. Can you please take a look at Mover and Secret? Okay. All right, I will take a look at Mover. First, if I can get my brain to work here and find it. There it should be. It's actually holding up kind of okay, at least on a daily. I mean, it's maintaining its daily uptrend. That's not bad, especially if Bitcoin can hold its weekly 10. This is a really healthy pullback structurally. Am I happy that it got back below this trend line? No, but in terms of higher highs and higher lows, this would be a higher low if it can get some form of continuation, or even just go sideways and then get continuation. Yeah, so you got a low, a high, a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. If it can stick its landing, this is honestly, that's not bad structure. This is the daily chart. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. So really what you're looking at to see if this is going to break down is just drawing a horizontal somewhere near 68, I don't know, 68 and a quarter, 68.35, something like that. So I'll just label it 68.35. Actually, I could highlight it and see exactly where I have it. 68.30. All right, I have it at... And if you really want to finesse this and figure out, hey, is it getting ready to change directions or whatever, you can use you can use smaller time frames and figure out, is this line being used as support or not? And as of now, I mean, it is using it as support after it did dip below it a couple times, but it used as support and made a higher local high. And as of now, it's potentially making a higher local low as well. Potentially. This is not confirmed as a local low yet because this candle hasn't closed. It probably even needs a few more candles before you can call that a local low, which would be higher than this local low. Yeah, that would be the line. I mean, if this is going to have some downturn, what you're going to see is it could be something to this effect where it makes a lower high, comes down, and it makes a lower low, but the lower low does not stick its landing here on that line, rather a little lower. And then when it comes up, if it bounces lower than this line, that gives an increased chance of yet another lower high, and that means it's probably going to go like this. That's usually how crypto price moves around a horizontal when it's going to give it up. An exception to that rule is sometimes crypto, if Bitcoin really tanks, it just falls right through without doing any of that, right? But this would be the primary way you would see lower timeframes interacting with this 68. Where'd my label go? Oh, here we go. With this 6830 line. I'm not guessing that's what will happen, but if it's going to go down, that would be my guess. So I would really zone in on that. But as of now, the daily structure is intact. Let me look at the weekly real quick. Yeah, weekly looks fine. I mean, for digging itself out of a hole, right? Or potentially digging itself out of a hole. It would have been better had this weekly closure been over this. So it's not really fantastic yet because you don't have a higher high on the weekly. So you still have lower lows and lower highs still. So it's not fantastic. However, it is possible it can go sideways here and then make its lower high. Or I mean a higher high, a higher local high than this. So that level is roughly $90 bucks. If a week closed above $90, that would probably be a pretty darn bullish signal for a mover. That'd be a key level to write in there. But specific to a weekly closure. So if there's a Wednesday where it's at $98, that doesn't matter very much. It matters on Sunday at 8 p.m. New York time. Is it above $90? Wednesday intro week $98, that doesn't matter honestly, and that would be potentially a good reason to 20 bag if it were to get up closer to $100 midweek, because it's really the end of the week that matters, closing above there from a weekly standpoint. So that's what I got on mover. You also asked for secret. Yeah, this must be the right chart because it looks like it came out here and then had its initial correction. All right. So since it's a young asset, I mean, it's probably best to stare at this on the 4-hour chart, really. This was a pretty bullish shape right there. Oh, it does have a weekly 10 EMA. Perfect. I thought it would maybe was under, so it's maybe 16 weeks old or 18 weeks old. All right, because you have about 8 ticks of the weekly 10. I mean, potentially very similar to Bitcoin. I think the weekly 10, I would put that on using the MTF EMA indicator, as you can see over here. That's going to be a key area for you, a key area of support. And it roughly aligns with the horizontal created by this low here and a lot of these resistance. So support and resistance probably make a box between there, and it's going to align with a lot of price action, right? So just connect those. And see, it's hitting price perfectly right now. Stretch it this way. It even connects with a lot of price action back there. So so you have a horizontal support just above the weekly 10. So if and those levels are between, and I would draw that box in there. It's going to be a pretty important box. 558 to 573. That's not a very good color to be able to see on your computer. Okay, that might be a little bit better. So what I'm looking for here, if I were in this asset and if I wanted it to keep going up, but it's not just what you want. you just need to know when you need to get out, right? Or when you think something opposite of what you want is going to happen. Therefore, it doesn't matter what you want. You know when to react, right? So when I'm saying if you want it to go up, that's what I'm meaning. Like the tool you use to realize, hey, what I want is probably not going to happen. I need to change my plan. Is what I would be looking for is it could hold this support level for at least a little bit longer until the weekly 10 can creep in here. And the weekly 10, even on the 4-hour chart, does, it keeps moving up. You don't have to wait a whole week for a tick here because I'm not on the weekly chart. So on lower time frames, this does move before the actual weekly tick locks in, right? And you'll want to see the weekly 10 creep into this area so you have double support. And what I mean by double support is two different types. When you have two totally different groups of people who are seeing the exact same level for totally different reasons, and they have a reason to buy at that level, it is a double support, right? And double resistance is the exact opposite. Is when two totally different, and what I mean by different groups is structural people who don't look at EMAs, and then EMA people who aren't necessarily looking at that structure. And then you have other groups of people who are looking at both, right? And they realize, hey, this is like extra support, right? So that could even be a third group of people. But you have a couple different groups of people who would turn into buyers at this level, increasing the chance that it holds it here, with the assumption also Bitcoin maintains above the weekly 10. If Bitcoin doesn't matter how many, I guess it does matter, but figuratively doesn't matter how many buyers are here looking at this in that situation. If Bitcoin tanks below its weekly 10, people are going to become sellers in this asset as well, right? Or at least the bots, and it's going to go right through anybody retail looking at this. So even though there probably aren't very many bots trading this, but yeah, this is what I'd be looking for. I'd be concentrating on this level and holding steady until the weekly 10 can get here, and that would greatly increase the chance that it can get a pretty strong bounce, assuming Bitcoin and traditional markets can hold their current levels. That's really all I'd be focusing on. I wouldn't really be hoping for much upside potential quite yet until Bitcoin gets above its monthly 10, and so does the traditional market ticker that I've asked everybody to focus on. But if both Bitcoin and NASDAQ futures can get above their monthly 10, this would have a strong chance of making a higher local high with the event that it holds this level. And that's what I would be looking for on Secret. All right. And again, OTA, sorry I skipped over your question last time. All right, so I will get Harrison. So another community member asked about Naca. I'll look at that, then I'll go back up the list and look for other questions here. Okay, I've looked at this before a long time ago, and I can pretty much get rid of all this stuff. This did not join the party. I mean, similar to what I've said on a couple other YouTube live shows, and yeah, mostly YouTube live when people ask about an asset. I want to let you know that this is among the weaker assets in crypto. Most assets during this recent rally got not just above its weekly 10, but significantly above its weekly 10. And this got a rejection. And so what that means is imagine all the money that is currently going into crypto, right? Just try to imagine whether you imagine a bunch of water in a tube or whatever. Just imagine the flow, all the flow of money. The flow of money has a lot of different directions it can go. The way it's divvied up, where all that water, so imagine money as water, where all that water in one big tube rushing, and then it, not rushing as in Russia, but rushing, so moving quickly through the tube. And when it gets to the end of the tube, it's got a lot of different directions it can go. This is not one of the directions that money's going. And definitely keep that in mind, because let's say that we have found a bottom and things will zoom up to 70K from here. It's, just in that hypothetical scenario. It's not what I think is most probable. In that hypothetical scenario, at least for the beginning of that run, because this is not one of the directions money is flowing, it won't be part of the party, at least for half of the party, until people take profits, and then they look for something else that is down, but it's a good project, and then this would join the party. But this won't be a first mover. This did not join the party. And yeah, so the water did not go this direction. This could be a good asset to look at. Let's say there is a rally. This could be something good to look at. Try to get into a first mover, take profits, and then get into this before it takes off. That would be a decent play. And a lot of times the way that's actually what I did during the previous altcoin season. I mean, hell, even with BPro. BPro had all the keywords I was looking for. You know, the only flavor of the month that it didn't hit was and this was before the NFT craze, or right before that was a craze. The only thing it didn't hit at the time was Oracle, because Oracle's kind of dominated 2020. Like they're the ones that did well. And so it was one that had not joined the party yet, and I thought, hey, this is getting ready to join the party, and it did. So this could be a good thing to utilize it as that type of tool. But in regards to trying to buy this at a low, and hopefully it does really well, you know, especially at the beginning of a run, it's probably not going to. This would be one to look at after a run has already happened, take profits, and then look into something like this. So, for example, you know, you could be better off catching a stronger coin, like let's say Atom has a big dip. It could be better to get into something that has been strong, Atom, take profits, and then look back at this in the event that the market really does turn around. That's how I would utilize this. I want to be really, really, really clear with what I'm saying here. But yeah, there's really not a lot of hope for just anything impressive until it gets above its weekly 10 EMA and stays above it and uses it as support. Really, this is being exposed to, you know, to the potential of price discovery down. All right. It could also continue just going sideways and using this as support, this area as support, until the weekly 10 does one of these, comes down, and then it's going to get into a squeeze, and then it's got to make up its mind. Am I going price discovery down, or am I going to finally get back above it? And that's honestly probably what's about ready to happen. So I would really draw a line around here. Actually, let's take this off. I would draw a line somewhere, and I'm on the daily chart, connecting these daily candles there, and I would make a squiggly or whatever you want to do, extending the slope of the weekly 10, and it's probably going to stay in that. And the apex of that is around late April. So if Bitcoin goes down in late April, this is price discovery down, for example, and it's probably going to stay in this zone until late April, and then it's got to make up its mind. It's gonna you'll essentially have this situation here. It's gonna go one of those ways, and it's probably gonna be dependent upon Bitcoin. And so for your immediate analysis, this is what I would be looking at: horizontal weekly 10 incoming squeeze play. It's got to make up its mind in late April, and it's going to be very, very dependent upon Bitcoin. And that's what I got for Naca. All right, let me go back. So Harrison, I'll get to your One Earth here in just a second. I want to make sure I haven't skipped over non-members too terribly bad. Okay, Rocket. Okay, so yeah, Rocket Mail asks a pretty good question. He says he's watching one of my earlier videos about key hot words and what you would want to see on a coin's website, things I was hunting for the next, the flavor of the month or the current flavors of the month. So what are the current ones? I would say there aren't any. I mean, if there is one, it's still friggin' metaverse and NFT maybe, but those hot words and flavors of the month really only hold weight when the market's doing well and new blood is coming to crypto. Because when new blood comes to crypto, how are they making their buying decisions? By watching freaking YouTube. And it's whatever keywords are floating around YouTube. But if the YouTubers, who especially talk about altcoins and push them or whatever, say 1000x and all that stuff, if they are talking about flavors of the month, metaverse, this and that, but there's no retail to buy it up, it's not going to do anything. So really, I would say none at this moment. I mean, if I had to choose, it would be metaverse and NFT still. Those seem to be holding up. Those two areas are holding up okay. And honestly, Luna might be its own freaking keyword. I mean, Luna is just a beast. Like, it is a beast. It definitely does not move like anything else. It could be a game changer. Yeah, that would be my answer to that pretty solid question there. All right, let me go down to One Earth, and then I'll go back up the list here and look at some questions. I keep forgetting I have to click this first. Same deal. It's not above its weekly 10. However, it is holding this structure pretty well. So I think in the last live chat when you asked about this, is it Harrison? Yeah. I drew this for you, right? So you're going to see the weekly 10 doing one of these guys, and you can essentially take the weekly 10 and extend it. And if this starts getting below this little projector tool, so roughly 45-degree angle, if it starts getting below it, you're going to realize, it's coming down, and it's not, it's going to try to find a horizontal, it's going to turn into a squeeze play. So it'll do something like this. Something, maybe use that as a horizontal, and then a price would do something, one of those. If it breaks below here. If it can stay within roughly this 45-degree angle, which I promise you, as crude and basic as that is, I promise you it works, man. Just a straight up, just kind of eyeball it. And it's just the projector tool. It's right here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 7th thing down on TradingView, like the tools you can use, and it's called projector tool, and you'll want to star it. And after you star it, it brings this little bar, it adds it to whatever else you have starred, and you can move it around, right? So my projector tool is up there. I promise you it works extremely well, and it gives you a heads up on if it's going to hold steady and potentially get it back above a certain resistance or not, or just break down or whatever, the opposite. So I draw a rough 45-degree angle like that, extend my weekly 10, and then keep eyeballing. Does it stay within or above the projector tool or not? And once it starts closing below, that means it's probably going to come back straight down to looks like 15.5 cents. And then if that were to happen, then it's probably going to get a bounce and use the 10 as resistance. And similar to Naca, it's the apex of this is coming in late April. If this turns into a squeeze play. But what this could do, if traditional markets really do have a rally off of here, or at least they take a breath and go back up and make a lower high, in that time, this looks like it has a decent chance of getting it above the weekly 10 and then coming back down using as support. And then trying one more time to get above this horizontal resistance right here. That would be the second thing. But right now, nothing's changed since the last time. It's in the projector tool, and those are all the things that I would be focusing on. It's kind of indecisive which way. I wouldn't make a guess which way it's going to go. Rather, you're going to know when. This is going to give you the best heads up on when you do have an edge on one direction. Right now, I don't think there's an edge to either situation. It's really a coin flip right now, obviously very dependent on Bitcoin, but using these basic tools here, this will tell you when you do have an edge. But right now, I'm not making any guesses, because I don't think there is a guess to make quite yet. But there's nothing super alarming yet. It's in that projector tool. That's what we got for there. All right. Now, when pump, I mean, I'm still maintaining September for when crypto's going to pump. I'm seeing fall, September, October. I don't think this market can get out of it. And really, I mean, look, this is something I went over on one of my Discord live shows. Let me take off all EMAs and only keep on this range. Okay. So what I'm about to show you is really cool. Watch this. Actually, I might want to record this. All right, so here is why Bitcoin, it's totally possible that stuff stays boring and in a range for way longer than what anybody's considering. And I'm going to show you something pretty cool using the moments that there was a halvening, Bitcoin halvening, right, when the block size changes, okay? And then let's take a look. So here we go. I'm going to go to indicators. Probably easier to see this on the 2-day chart. And I'm specifically using the Bitstamp chart. You can use Bitfinex has a lot of price history, but you want to be looking this at a chart that at least goes back to 2011, right? So whichever Bitcoin chart goes back to 2011, you're probably good to go. All right, this is the halvening. You can see here, typically the halvening is the point in which things begin to heat up for the next move up. So halvening, things begin to move up, going up. Halvening, things stay level for a while, but begin to move up. Halvening, things begin to move up, right? The next halvening date is June 2024. Let me make a mark there. That's the next time things will begin to heat up, at least on this chart. So if I extend these lines of this current macro range, all right, watch. And again, this cycle might be done. So the way it interacts with halvenings, it might not exist anymore, right? It's totally possible, but as of now, it's still maintained. Like even this last time, this is the exact moment it began to heat up. So if things aren't going to begin to heat up until then, even my guess of September might be totally way off. So best case, Bitcoin stays in this range for another couple years, just over 2 years. That's best case. But what has happened previously in previous halvenings and cycles is you get a capitulation and then it works itself out, does something like this, and then begins to heat up. That's how it's worked every time. And looking at it like this, it's completely possible that, but this does mean potential all-time highs, boring, 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 all-time highs again, boring, 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 all-time highs again, begins to heat up, something like that. And so this would be something like 75K, 82K, 85K, and then bounces off the point of control and begins to heat up. So there is a lot of money to be made, even if it were to be stuck in this range for years. But there won't be an altcoin season, and this would not be enough to bring in retail buyers. You would not have any craze or flavors of the month or coins doing, like Telcoin had one of the biggest runs in all of crypto. This past one, gosh, what was it, like 30,000% or 31, like it did 310x or something, right? You're not going to have any of that happening if something like this were to happen, or worse, or if you get a capitulation, work yourself out, begin to heat up, which is the most common way for this to work. So I'm kind of mixing a couple questions in this live chat here. Somebody asked, what are the keywords or key hot words or whatever? And I kind of said, well, the key hot words don't matter if there's no retail, right? And then mixed with this question, when are things going to heat up? Those two questions are pretty connected. It could be a hell of a lot longer, folks. But the good thing is, though, as long as you're in crypto now, you've seen through all this boringness and choppiness, there is a ton of money to be made in this range. A ton of money, all right? Not just in Bitcoin, but in altcoins. Now, unless you're getting altcoins that haven't been joining the party. So, for example, I think somebody asked for a ticker, I think it was Naca, that I said, hey, this did not join the party. This would not be something that would be super profitable during this time if it were to have another 2 whole years going sideways. You would need things that are moving with Bitcoin as it goes up. And that is joining the party. And definition right now of joining the party, at least a loose definition, is assets that both got significantly above its weekly 10 EMA and usually above its monthly 10 EMA, right? Because most altcoins that have a downward structure, their weekly 10 has crossed below its monthly 10, which is a bearish cross. And so that is why I say it that way. So joining the party this time has been getting both above the weekly 10 and the monthly 10. And buying altcoins, that didn't join the party, well, they're not going to join the party until the halvening, essentially, at least on this chart, until the halvening happens, and then retail buyers come, and then that type of coin that is stuck below its weekly 10 now, then it could join the party, but it's not going to be profitable. So during this time, it would be profitable, assuming you're not locking your money and crossing your fingers and stuff, that is not just Naca. I'm not banging on Naca, but anything that has been under its weekly 10 EMA. If you could probably, if you put your money in stuff like that did not just get above its weekly 10 EMA, this won't be profitable for you. All right. And another way to kind of mess up not being profitable, if this were to happen, is if you're not selling regularly. You need to, every time you buy, you need to buy with the intent to sell soon, as opposed to buying with the intent of looking for the next altcoin run. That should not be your intent. And so if something like this were to happen, and this is your intent, so altcoin season is your intent when you buy during this, you're also not going to make much money, because you might buy low, but it'll go up and you didn't sell, and then it comes right back down. You made no money. So there are two ways in this case where it goes sideways for 2 whole years. There are two ways you can really mess this up and not make any money. Is if you buy coins that did not join the party and thus never have an up move, or you buy with the intent of looking for an alt season. And if this were to happen, the only way, the way really to make money would be to buy things that are joining the party, plus you buy with the intent to become a seller relatively soon, maybe within a month or 2 months or whatever, but you're not looking for an altcoin season specifically. And that's what we got there in terms of expectations of when things will heat up. Hopefully that was helpful. Sorry to be bearer of bad news, but yeah, something like that could really happen. And honestly, these two scenarios are more probable than an altcoin season before this line. So out of these 3 areas, altcoin season before, or sideways, or down, sideways and down are like individually, not just together, but individually, much more probable than this, right? So definitely keep that in mind. This could go sideways a hell of a lot longer than what you're thinking, or that even what I'm thinking. But I'm thinking the earliest this could really start heating up is September, really the only reason I voice that is because Bitcoin adoption finally is happening, and that was not something that was occurring in 2016, 20. There was no Bitcoin adoption, right? Countries weren't using it. You didn't have rock star presidents of countries like tweeting about it and essentially becoming a crypto tweeter for the most part. I guess he does some politics tweeting, but you didn't have that type of stuff. And you didn't have institutions talking about it. You didn't. It sometimes got onto news shows, CNN or whatever, or the finance shows. Whether it's the Fox Business or whatever, it sometimes popped up when it rallied. But now, if you go to things like just general sources of information that have general market, Bitcoin is typically a peg on there now. For example, I'm not saying this is a good source of information, but Yahoo Finance, there's something about Bitcoin on the first page almost every day. A review of it, just like there's something about NASDAQ or Dow Jones every day. And that did not occur. So that would be the only reason why I think there is some sort of hope, that things change. But using this, you shouldn't have that hope be extremely strong. All right. Okay. Kind of rambled there, but it's really important to have that overall view. Respect living your tea. The YouTube algorithm gods have some truth. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, the YouTube algorithm is not the nicest to smaller content creators during downturns in search queries. So ACA versus... So somebody earlier asked about ACA. I'll do this real quick. I got to start wrapping up here, though. A non-community member asked about this, and then I will look down to Dora. So Harrison, you asked about Dora Factory. I'll look at that in BPro and maybe Veracity here. Okay. This actually looks pretty good. This is one of the healthier charts. See, it's above its weekly 10 EMA. And this could come down a lot. This could come all the way down to it, still be in a higher high, higher low structure. Yeah, there are a lot of people interested in buying this. This definitely joined the party. Honestly, you had a hell of a closure. Did that get a weekly closure that high? Ooh, it did not. Close, but no cigar. It didn't close the week above here. That would have been really bullish. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Intra-week skyrocketing doesn't matter. If you see it going above a weekly horizontal intra-week, it's not unwise to be a seller. Not like selling all of your ACA or asset, in this case, but, a portion of it. With the strong likelihood, the week's going to close lower because this weekly horizontal is a big deal. So look at the difference. Look at this weekly chart versus the daily chart. The daily chart says, oh, we got daily closures above here, but it's really the week that matters. But it got really close. But in general, so that would have been extra bullish. It just didn't get the icing on the cake. However, this cake is good. It just didn't get the icing quite yet. But it does have in it, this honestly is one of the healthier charts. I don't know what this asset is, but I hate to make a box this big, but I'm going to have to. I'm going to connect these lows here to this wick high and this wick high here. This is going to be an area of interest where it really needs to stay above. I think it will. And I can't remember which coin earlier, but what you're really wanting is, and this is between $1.40, roughly 43 cents, to $1, just 143 to 153 roughly. What you're going to want to see is you're going to want to see sideways until the weekly 10 can get in here, so you have that double support. So two different groups of buyers have totally different reasons to come in and scoop up at a certain support, making this support extra strong. So the longer it can go sideways, don't be looking for a screaming up unless Bitcoin really recovers, and so does the traditional markets. But what you're looking for is this zone sticking and letting the weekly 10 get in here. And then you're going to want to meet this to have price hit it and then a chance to take off. That's what I would be focusing on. Can this range hold as support until the weekly 10 gets here? And then I would look at Bitcoin as my primary indicator and also look at traditional markets as a primary indicator for Bitcoin. What are those doing? Do they look good? If they do look good and this is able to be true, then this would probably be a good pickup at that time. But if all that happens, if the weekly 10 gets in here and this is able to go sideways, but right as that happens, Bitcoin and traditional markets are getting ready to take a poo, well, this is also going to do that, right? I want to be really clear with what I'm saying. So at that, I would assume something like this is going to happen. And roughly at that moment, whatever the price ends up looking like, I would then, before making a decision, I would look at Bitcoin and traditional markets to determine, do I get a check mark or do I have an X? And I would, and then that would help me with my decision making at that point. And those are the levels for there. So somebody, Dora Factory and BPro. Dora. Oop, I keep hitting F11. Hopefully it's just Dora. Wow, this is big enough of a coin to trade versus the dollar and have futures. Interesting. I haven't heard of this. Wonder what is the market cap of this over $1 billion? It's only 22 million. Why does it have futures? Maybe that's something different. So this is generally a small cap. Interesting. It wanted to join the party, but here, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, it never truly used the weekly 10 as support. It never did once. So it's like it went into the party but got kicked out, like right as he or she walked in. That's kind of what that is. So it's in between the worlds there. Or there was a big spider web in the doorway and it got stuck. It never truly kind of got 1 foot in, but never got fully in. Whatever weird analogy you want to use here. Yeah, this one's kind of in between. In regards to what it'll do when Bitcoin rallies here, I mean, it's not looking really good right now. It broke this. You know, this was a pretty solid trend line there, and it broke it. Yeah, you'll want to draw this on your chart, all this area of support here, and the very first step, so right now, this is exposed to making new lows. Right now it is. If it's under this line, it's exposed to making new lows. Has a chance to find this as a horizontal. It has a chance, but it's still very exposed to price discovery down if it cannot get back above this trend line. So step 1 is get above this trend line. Step 2 is get above the weekly 10. And until it does that, you're more looking at downside price action all the way down to $4.15. Yeah, giving up that trend line was real bad. Real bad. But it's not said and done yet. It could just be slumping below, and then it could come right back up and use it as support. That could still happen. This hasn't been confirmed like totally horrible quite yet. It could easily do something like this. But that would be step 1 and step 2 if you're looking for upside potential. And every moment that it's below this line is a moment that it is extremely exposed to going straight to $4.15 and potentially over time seeking lower lows, especially if once it gets there. So let's say Bitcoin goes sideways, right? Just nothing special, no up or down, as this comes down to 415. And as this comes down to 415, that's when Bitcoin starts going down more. This is really gonna tank. But this does have a chance that, you know, it's not confirmed that this is horrible yet. This could be just a couple days living below this line and it pops right back up. But yeah, I would be looking at that trend line, the weekly 10, and this horizontal at 415. And that's pretty much the 3 things that you would need on your chart for this. All right, BPro. All right, here we got BPro. I'm staring at 2 main items on the BPro chart. Is if I zoom out here, you connect the wick high to the November high, and then the weekly 10. So it used this. So this is what's called a failure. It didn't get rejected, but this did prove as resistance. So there are 2 forms of when price of an asset uses a line, whether it's straight or whether it's horizontal or not, uses something as resistance, there are 2 ways that can be. Either it straight up gets rejected, which would look more like this, coming up straight to it and going below, or it fails it, which looks like this. So a failure or rejection are 2 ways that things are used as resistance. And because that was used as resistance, your next support is just the weekly 10. So what you're looking for is, can the weekly 10 continue being used as support? And until then, you know, it's still looking kind of okay. You have a low, a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and come all the way down to the weekly 10. That would still be just barely higher than this. You would still have a daily uptrend. So, I mean, this is still in a daily uptrend, even if it comes all the way down to 0045, but as long as it can close a little bit above 0455, so a wick below, but the daily closes just above this level, it's still in a daily uptrend. So I would probably put a horizontal at this level here, and until you see a daily closure below it, so these daily candle bodies right there, okay, 0045. So I guess 3 tools. Weekly 10, that trend line, and 0045 horizontal, which actually really is right at the weekly 10. But as long as the daily closure does not close below this line, BPro is looking good. In order to judge whether or not to become a buyer at the weekly 10, assuming it gets to this point, I would then go eyeball Bitcoin and traditional markets and decide, are they postured good? Are they postured bad? Do I have a check mark or do I have an X? And before I decided to blindly buy that, I would go look at the primary indicators for BPro, which are traditional markets and Bitcoin. And that's how I would roll with this. But yeah, the 3 tools I would use, 0045, the weekly 10, and this trend line. And that's really pretty much all that you need to stare at until something new happens. But as of now, those are the 3 tools. All right. Acala is the first parachain winner on Polkadot. I didn't know that. I thought there were other parachain winners as well, but I didn't know that was the first. Okay, somebody's considering idea back in. Okay, so somebody asked idea since its idea is at a low support area, it's really proven 10-11 cents as support, and it did get above its weekly 10 and monthly 10, so it technically did join the party this time. If I were to, he asked, if I were to buy this support line with the intent of being a seller, could that be a good setup? Yeah, that could be a good setup. Just because something is a good setup and a good entry, is it guaranteed to work? No. So as you do that, you have to have a game plan on when you're going to scramble out. So you need to know exact conditions on idea. If this happens, then I scramble out. So before you get into it, make sure you have an exact game plan, and that's essentially your risk management plan. So before you enter, you need to know when you're going to scramble out, the exact conditions, and then once you know that, I think that would be it's a good setup, but not all good setups work. All right, I guess I can look at one more. I'll look at this in H-bar, then I gotta go. Holy cow. Wait, all that happened in September? What? Okay, so this came out right at the end of Wyckoff, essentially. Well, no, it actually came out in the middle of the down move. This was the end of Wyckoff right here. So Bitcoin started pumping on July 21st. This is crazy. So this is a YouTuber talking about it. I almost guarantee you, if you search for this LSS or lossless, I almost guarantee you that around early October, you're going to see a YouTuber with more than 50,000 subscribers talked about this. This is seeing news in the charts, or it really did have something it released. Like it had a big, a big release of something, had mainnet. But then YouTubers talking about it. So it could be either just a YouTuber or YouTubers talking about something that actually happened on this asset. But this is an impressive run. Yeah, that happened after altcoin season. That's a big run. Yeah, I did a 13x, and it joined the party this last time, got above its weekly 10, seems to be holding it. So after that big run, it had a healthy, 90% correction, which is pretty typical for altcoins. So this must be a smaller cap, under 80 million, I would assume, since it had a 90% correction. Honestly, this looks pretty okay. Yeah, so you're going to want your weekly 10 on, and you're going to want to draw a horizontal at 60 cents. 60 cents is a big deal for this asset. Maybe a little lower. Maybe 56. Let's say 56 cents. And the weekly 10's right at it. This has a good chance of holding this as support. But if it doesn't, it's going to come down and make a lower high, at least at about a 45-degree angle to this. So that would be your next target. That would be 41 cents. So if 56 cents can't hold, it's going to go straight down to 41 cents at least. It's going to hit a 45-degree angle with a very high likelihood. Is it guaranteed? No, but that's my if-then for this. If 56 is broken, then 41 cents. You want to draw a line at 56 cents and have your weekly 10 EMA on. And as of now, it's holding it as support. And so until something changes, I would assume that this will maintain as support. And then depending on Bitcoin and traditional markets, obviously, if they start rallying, then this absolutely has permission to continue its rally. Absolutely. Yeah, this asset is not looking bad. I might look into this. This is, all things considered, this is actually looking pretty healthy for a newer coin that's a smaller cap. This, yeah, and you had your nice 90% correction, and it joined the party. So this might be one to look into. I like that. All right, and then I'll look at HBAR, and I'm really going over time here. That can't be right. There we go. That's better. You're going to want to line at 20 cents exactly. As long as weeks are closing above 20 cents, this has a chance to get back over its, so week specifically. So that means on a Wednesday, if it goes below 20 cents, it's not a death sentence as long as before the end of the week, it comes back above 20 cents. So I want to be very specific. Weekly closures. Intra-week, it would be bad to go below 20 cents, but it's happened multiple times before, and it closed, and then it came right back up. It would probably come back up. At least that first week it dips down. So I wouldn't be totally scared the first time it goes down, but a weekly closure below, it's probably then coming down all the way to 16 cents. But 20 cents is a big deal specific to weekly closures. Yeah, this chart has enough price history where the weekly kind of is dominating the day. So that means you can have a couple daily closures down here. So Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday comes back up, closes there on Sunday. But you're getting ready to have a pretty nasty squeeze play here. I'm telling you. So it's below its weekly 10. It's weekly 10. You might want to draw a line like that. Just kind of guess where it's going to go. And you're going to have a decision point again. So this is like the fourth or fifth asset. So something big is going to happen in late April, folks. Like when everything starts to align with certain dates, it often means that date is real. Late April is going to be pretty momentous, or early May. Something's going to happen. Yeah, there are way too many things pointing to late April as a conclusion point. Late April, early May. But yeah, that's what you're looking at right now. Weekly 10, 20 cents, and that's weekly closures. So those three tools is what you want on HBAR. But as of now, there is no best guess. You could guess that it's going to come to 20 cents and go like this. Honestly, that would probably be my best guess, but it could find support here and try to get back above the weekly 10, and it's kind of in the middle. So there is no, you don't have really an edge on what's going to happen since it's in the middle of everything. But what would change your edge is if it does start getting a bounce here, and on smaller time frames, you do have an edge to trade up to here and become a seller at the weekly 10, and that would probably be a tradable event. Well, only 11%, but whatever. That's 11%. And you would have an edge to the upside. Also, if it gets above its weekly 10, use it as support for a couple days, then you'd have some edge to the upside. But right now, there isn't an edge on any direction. It looks like it's just going to float around and go sideways and kind of chop around right now until Bitcoin concludes which way it's going to go. All right. Yeah, you're welcome for looking at it. So 30 million market cap for that previous one, so that wasn't a bad guess. All right. This did try to join the party. It needs to get back above its weekly 10 EMA. Oh, this is one I'm missing. There we go. Okay. I was going to say, my chart is awfully bare for being Veracity, something I cover a lot. This is up in the air right now. It's hanging right below its weekly 10. So this might be one that you want to use lower time frames as a tool right now. Yeah, like 15-minute, 30-minute, even 5-minute chart. Right now, it looks like it's getting ready to break down. So before this move up, it did not use the weekly 10 as true support. It went below it, which means when you do that and you bounce, that means that bounce is very likely going to have a lower high. It went below, it bounced, but it bounced below the weekly 10, which means it's statistically likely you're going to have a lower high. And as you keep doing that, that means you're likely going to break down. And the only way to undo that is to come up on lower time frames and do this on top, truly use it as support. And until that happens, the pressure's down on this. So that would be the condition to where your edge flips. Right now, there's an edge to the downside. Truly, there is. So each oscillation up, so this next one up, it's probably going to be a high lower than that high. And it'll very likely hit it like this trend line here. I'm drawing stupid stuff on my chart now. Something like that. Because it did not use, so this did not use that red line as support. It's very likely to hit that trend line and go down again. But that's the more probable case. What would flip the probabilities of that happening is if it can come up to there, get rejected, but then use the 10 as support, and then your probabilities start flipping that saying, hey, it might be, it's beginning to get more probable, or at least, more probable that you're going to have an upside move if you can, it uses the weekly 10 exactly as support. But right now, that condition has not been met. Therefore, the probability is that the most probable situation is it's going to go down to find some other support. I don't know what it would be. I mean, maybe it's weekly 80. Honestly, it's weekly 89 might be a good. Is this the 89? Yeah, I would say it's targeting the weekly 89 because look at this. Resistance, 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 support. It's targeting coming straight down to 2.1 cents, weekly 89. So really, the tools that you need to be looking at are the weekly 10, weekly 89 on this guy, but on lower time frames. And then as a third tool, use lower time frames as its own tool to determine, does this have a chance of flipping the probabilities? So right now it's more probable that the weekly 89 is going to hit. The moment the moment that changes, the probabilities flip is if lower time frames can come up and use this as support. And then your probabilities begin flipping. That's what I got. All right. I think, no, Veracity is already on Binance. That might be Binance America, but I'm pretty sure it's on Binance. Hell, it even has futures. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's already on there. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but Ultra is still in a trading channel. Pretty simple analysis on this. I mean, this is something I kind of follow. I'm really interested in this coin, or at least in the chart. I don't know anything about the project, but this chart is very predictable. So as of now, until something changes, it is probable that it's most probable that it'll find, a wick just below here somewhere at 108 and then try upward again. That's the most probable scenario. The moment that changes is when lower time frames, even like in an hour. So see this last time it went below? Look, it did not use this as support because it went below, but when it came up, it did not use that line as resistance, and not once. You see that? Every time it went below, it never used this as resistance on the 1 hour chart. Therefore, I would say the probability right now is that it does get a bounce off of this trend line. And right now, so the trend line is ascending. So depending on the day you're looking at, it's going to be different. But right now, that trend line is at about 112, but it's been wicking below. So between 106 to 112, right now it is probable that it gets a bounce point between 106 and 112. The probabilities of that flip when a 1 hour can, if it goes below, use it as resistance specifically. That's when your probabilities flip. If it goes like this, that still hasn't used that blue line as resistance. It still kind of has a good chance of going up and coming up to this next level, right? But specifically using that as resistance like this. So resistance once, resistance twice, kind of gets above it in the middle, but it still uses it as resistance twice. But the probabilities really begin flipping using it as resistance once. But I would probably look for resistance twice, because this line's been a big deal. If it uses it as resistance once, it'll probably come up and try it again. But so on the 1 hour chart, if you see it use it as resistance twice, that's when the probabilities flip, and then the most probable situation is it will break down out of here. All right, cool. I got to go. I ran 28 minutes past, but I did start 12 minutes late because my dumbass, I thought I was streaming, but I thought I clicked the go live button, but I guess I didn't. So, we will see you on next Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. and live streams are 10:30 on Thursday or Tuesdays and Thursday, 10:30 New York time. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you.